What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. And today we will be getting into my March 15th edition of the Bracketology. It is 1:03 a.m. on my side of recording this, but I am up right now. I am making this. We're at that time where I'm just college basketball's filling up my entire mind right now. I'm sure it is for you guys as well. Very excited to get into all this. We had another crazy day. No tickets punched today. I did forget to shout out Montana State for clinching their spot out of the Big Sky last time. So shout out to them, but no tickets punched on yesterday, technically on Thursday. But we did have some chaos, especially around the bubble here. All right, but if we take a look on the watch, top of the seed is Purdue. They have their first matchups today. And then we have first team out, New Mexico, beating Boise State, getting a big-time win. According to Joe Lunardi, that's not enough, though, to boost themselves into the NCAA tournament. They got a big-time game against Colorado State to prove themselves once again. But last team in is Texas A&M, obviously beating Ole Miss. That was a big-time win. They are just slightly in the field. I do believe Joe Lunardi's higher on Texas A&M. I think the consensus is that New Mexico would be above them, but we'll see what happens. Okay. Last four byes, though. We got Michigan State. I think they locked up their tournament spot with that win against Minnesota yesterday. Then we got Mississippi State, Oklahoma, and St. John's, who beat the next team, Seton Hall, right there. Huge win for St. John's. I think that's a pretty good resume booster. Clincher, I think, would to be beating UConn, but I do believe they have a very good case. They have completely turned it around after a really rough middle of February for St. John's. But then we have Colorado, who basically eliminates Utah with their win over them. Colorado is red hot entering into this tournament. If they make it, I'm telling you, they're a dangerous team, very talented as well. Virginia, who just barely survives today versus Boston College. Boston College had a buzzer beater two-pointer jumper that sent it to overtime, but it was that close to being a three that would have eliminated Virginia from ACC tournament, and I think from the entire NCAA tournament. But they're surviving. They get another game versus North Carolina State, I believe, the 7 seed who upset Duke, that we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, Virginia, they're not quite sealed yet. They don't have that big game really on this ACC tournament with Clemson losing to Boston College the day before. But then anyway, we do have Texas A&M as that last team in. And first four out, we got New Mexico, Indiana State now out of the field. You know, just with some of these bid thieves going on right now, I just don't see Indiana State making the tournament. I do believe they deserve it, but at this point in time, I think they'll probably miss it, unfortunately. That's just how it's set up. But then we do have Pittsburgh basically eliminating Wake Forest right there, getting their win. As you can see, though, they need a big-time game against North Carolina. If they can win that one, that's pretty much, they should be in at that point for Pittsburgh. Good program there. Providence upsetting Creighton today or yesterday. Providence is looking good as well. What a crazy game that was. If they can beat Marquette, very similar to Pittsburgh, they have a very strong case to make this tournament. But they're obviously still have that win to go, according to Joe Lunardi. Whoops, we did accidentally click on Providence. That's not what we want. But you see, they're 21-12. It's been a very solid year for Providence. Let's get out of this, though. All right, then the next for out, Kansas State. I do believe they lose to Iowa State, so I think they're eliminated at this point. Wake Forest, who obviously lose to Pittsburgh. Ohio State basically eliminating Iowa with their win. Trying to stay alive right now. They got some work to do still. Their game, they have a big game versus Illinois. That could be a big step for them. But then Villanova, heartbreaking fashion, losing to Marquette. I don't think they have a chance at this point to make the tournament. All right, but that was the chaos with the bubble. Let's take a look at this bracket. We do have Seton Hall falling to the play-in, obviously, after that loss to St. John's. Both those teams switch. And then we have Texas A&M new to the field as an 11 seed, or in the play-in. And then in the Midwest region, Purdue, the number 1 seed. Dayton falling to a 9 seed, losing to Duquesne yesterday. Yesterday, every single 1 through 4 lost in the A10 tournament, which is honestly surprising. So that means every upset team won, every lower seed, which is pretty crazy. And then, we see there at 13 seed VCU projected to come out of it. But there's a lot of solid teams there that are fighting for position. But then we have McNeese jumping up to a 12 seed. Akron going to be new to the field at a 14. Then in the East region, we got UConn as the number 1. Washington State's going to be jumping up to a 5. St. John's jumping up to an 11. And Mississippi State jumping up to a 10. In the South region, we got Houston as the number 1 seed, obviously beating TCU yesterday. Sorry, I'm getting all mixed up because it's 1:10 a.m., so it's technically still March 14th for me, but we're going to consider that yesterday. And then Colorado State's going to be jumping up to a 9 seed there, getting a critical win versus Nevada. Then we got Texas Tech, who basically embarrassed my BYU Cougars. They're going to be jumping up to a 6 seed. They're making a strong case to even move up more, especially if they beat Houston. But then we got Creighton falling to a 3 seed, obviously losing to Providence. All right, but then Tennessee is going to be falling to a 2 seed there, which means North Carolina jumps up to the 1 seed in the West region. Interesting there. Beating whoever they beat today, Florida State, or yesterday. I don't think North Carolina deserves a number 1 seed over Tennessee. Tennessee didn't even play yesterday, but they play today. I'm not sure about that. But that's what Joe Lundardi thinks. So that's what you have right there. But then we have Florida Atlantic jumping up to an 8 seed. And then 9-seeded TCU jumping up there. We got Nevada falling to a 6, losing to Colorado State. And South Dakota State jumping up to a 15. All right, but let's get into this bracket here. Starting out with the first 4 games. We got Seton Hall taking on Virginia. I do got Seton Hall winning this one, even after their loss. And then give me Montana State to beat Grambling State. I do have Colorado beating Texas A&M. And then give me Norfolk State beating Wagner. All right. 40 spot in the round of 32. We got Purdue beating Montana State. Give me Boise State beating Dayton. I'm going to go South Carolina to beat McNeese. Kansas is a very upset-prone team. They are limping into this tournament at this point, obviously losing to Cincinnati by like 20 a couple days ago. But I do have them beating VCU. I don't think VCU has the talent to compete with Kansas there. But then we do have, I've always seemed to pull off upsets with Wisconsin. I'm going to give them credit. They played very good today versus Maryland in a game I predicted an upset in my Big Ten tournament predictions video. Wisconsin had a very bad middle of or end of January and mid to beginning of February. They've kind of rode the ship a bit, kind of figured things out. I'm going to give them credit. I think they're a well-coached team. I do think they will handle business against a young Seton Hall team. But then I do got Kentucky beating Akron. Give me Gonzaga to beat Oklahoma. And Marquette, I think, beats Quinnipiac. So, all chalk in that region, just how it plays out. But then this region, we do have North Carolina beating Norfolk State. Give me TCU pulling off the win over Florida Atlantic. I got to go with BYU to beat South Florida, as well as Illinois pulling off the win over Samford. Then I'm going to go with an 11/6 here. I'm still a big-time believer in Nevada, but James Madison's a very solid team as well there. I do got the upset with James Madison beating Nevada. All right, but then we got Baylor beating Oakland. Florida Drake, great matchup. I am going to go with the 7-seeded Gators, though. And then I do have Arizona beating South Dakota State. All right, we got UConn taking on Longwood. Give me Connecticut. I'm going to go with Nebraska to beat Texas. Give me the 12/5 here with Princeton upsetting Washington State. Just not really a believer in Washington State, I'm going to be honest at this point. Give me Princeton. I'm going to go with Auburn to beat Charleston. Give me St. Mary's to hold off St. John's. Then I have a 14/3 here. Give me Vermont to beat Duke. Duke just lost today to North Carolina State. Duke's a weird team to me. I think if they play a 14 seed like Vermont, I think this is like the only 14 seed I would pull off the upset. Keep an eye out for Vermont, man. This is a team that continuously makes the tournament here, just unfortunately comes up a little bit short. I don't think they punched their ticket yet, but if they do, I'm a firm believer in Vermont. I think they can do damage out of the American East. I'm just not really that big into Duke at this point with their loss yesterday. So I'm going to go with Vermont in the upset. Call me a Duke hater. Not really a hater, just going with the upset. But then we got a battle of the Aggies. Give me Utah State to beat Mississippi State. And I got to go with Iowa State to beat Sam Houston. All right, here the South region. We got Houston beating Stetson. Give me Northwestern to beat Colorado State. I was really debating going with the Antelopes of Grand Canyon. I just don't see it happening, though. San Diego State's a tournament-ready team at this point. I am going to go with San Diego State. But I do have the 13/4 here. Another big-time upset. Give me UC Irvine to upset Alabama, who at this point, Alabama, I just need to see something here for them to get my faith back in them because they did not look good this past few weeks here. I think UC Irvine's a very solid 13 seed as well. So give me the Anteaters of UC Irvine pulling off the win. All right, but Texas Tech, Colorado. Texas Tech, obviously, great performance versus BYU, but I am going to go with Colorado, and that's no discredit to Texas Tech. That's no bad blood as a BYU fan. This team completely kicked our butts, but Colorado is also a very good team, and they're coming off a first four game where usually at least one first four team wins in the NCAA tournament. That's just facts for you. Colorado is on like a 7-game winning streak, I want to say, with their win today versus Utah. I just have to go with Colorado. But another one of those games where we look at the other one on this side, Nevada versus James Madison, where it's just really tough for me to pull off the upset. But I do think it's one of those 50-50 games, and I am going to do it. So a little bit of an analysis in that one, but I do have Colorado pulling it off. Give me Creighton, though, to beat Morehead State. And I do have Michigan State pulling off the 10/7 over Clemson. And then give me Tennessee to beat Colgate. So pretty good upsets in that first round, I would say. I think we did a good job there. But then we got Purdue, Boise State. Give me Purdue. And then pretty easy matchup for me there. I got to go with South Carolina to beat Kansas. Kansas, obviously, it's Kansas. You can't really count them out. I know I kind of am here, but I do have South Carolina winning it. I do have Kentucky, though, beating Wisconsin, and Marquette as well beating Gonzaga. All right, now in the West region, we got North Carolina beating TCU. BYU, I think, would beat, I'm flipping this up. I'm going to go with Illinois. You know, I am a BYU fan, but BYU is such a deadly team on both sides. What I mean by that is they could go on a very big run in this tournament if they are on. You know, when they're hitting their threes, they're virtually unstoppable, but the other way goes around. We saw it versus Texas Tech. They just struggle, man, when they're not hitting those threes. Their defense isn't good enough to make up for it. So that's my reasoning that I'm not going to go with my Cougars. Illinois has also been much more consistent when they've gotten back sharp. So give me Illinois. All right. Baylor, I do like to handle business versus James Madison, but I'm going to go with a 7/2 here. Give me the Florida Gators to upset Arizona and advance on. All right. Next up, we got UConn taking on Nebraska. Give me UConn. And then I do have Auburn beating Princeton. St. Mary's, Vermont, 13/5. Give me St. Mary's. I really want to go with Vermont in that one, but St. Mary's, that's a really good team. I'm happy to see them make their Sweet 16 run finally. All right, Iowa State, Utah State. Give me the 2-seeded Iowa State. All right, Houston versus Northwestern. I do have Houston. Give me San Diego State to beat UC Irvine. Colorado, Creighton, 3-11. I do got Creighton winning it. And then Tennessee, I think, would beat Michigan State. So, for a spot in the Sweet 16, Purdue, South Carolina, 1-5. I got to go with Zach Edey and Purdue there. South Carolina is a dangerous team. I'm a firm believer in that. But I have Purdue winning it. And then give me the Wildcats of Kentucky to beat Marquette. All right, North Carolina, Illinois. I'm going to go with the 4. I think I'm going to do that, right? Yeah, I'm going to go with the 4 seed in Illinois. Give them some love. Illinois moving on. A team that I wasn't very high on as we got to late February, but I've kind of, re-got myself into them. But then Baylor versus Florida, I do have 3-seeded Baylor winning it. All right, up here we got UConn versus Auburn, 1-4. Give me UConn. That's a great 1-4 though there. And then St. Mary's, Iowa State. I'm going to go St. Mary's. Let's go with the Gales to make a run here to the No, sorry. Okay, sorry. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Gales here to make a run to the Sweet or the Elite 8. Iowa State's a very good team, but I'm going to go St. Mary's. They are an experienced team at this point out of the WCC, the number 1 team in that conference. Let's go with the Gales as a 6 seed to make a run. But then we got Houston versus San Diego State. I do have Houston winning it. So we got all number 1 seeds in the Elite 8. And then I got Tennessee beating Creighton. Or sorry, never mind, we don't. Illinois beat North Carolina. All right, Purdue, Kentucky for a spot in the Final Four. Give me the 3-seeded Kentucky. Kentucky, I think, is one of those teams that would be able to beat Zach Edey and Purdue. I think they match up well. So give me the 3-seed Kentucky advancing on. Then we got Illinois, Baylor, 4-3. I'm going to keep doing it, man. I'm going to keep moving Baylor to the Final Four. I'm just a firm believer in this team. We all have those teams that we're just firm believers in. I'm a firm believer in Baylor out of the Big 12, a very good team. Final Four team, I might add. All right, but then we got UConn, St. Mary's. I do think the Gales run will come to an end. That is actually a rematch of last year's round of 32 game. St. Mary's played pretty good in that game, actually, versus UConn. But they did end up losing, obviously, to the defending champs. All right, Houston, Tennessee. I'm going to go 2-seeded Tennessee moving on, beating Houston. So our Final Four consists of some pretty good teams here. A 1-seed in UConn, a 2-seed in Tennessee, a 3-seed in Kentucky, and a 3-seed in Baylor. So for a spot in the championship game, I'm going to give my love to 3-seeded Kentucky this time, moving on, where they will meet the Tennessee Volunteers, the 2-seed, beating UConn, the number 1 team in the country. Or I guess the number 2 team, number 2 overall seed. All right, Kentucky, Tennessee, 2 versus a 3, an SEC battle for the championship crown. And I am going to go with the Volunteers. Dalton Knecht, this team, I think, does deserve to be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Even if they're not one, they can be a very high-powered 2 seed here. I'm going to go with them to win the national championship. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this bracketology today. Comment down below your bracketology predictions. Anyway, guys, peace out.